Excellent. Yeah, I think we can start.
So we start, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome everybody to XR, AR, and VR session. And I'm Reit Schmidt, so I'll be
yeah, I think we
moderating today. Pardon? Shall I say it again? That's fine. Okay, so I'll be moderating today, and we have 4 participants, or actually 4 collectives, 4 participant collectives. And yes, we will start with Hanna Pajala-Assefa. She's from Finland, and she's a choreographer. So she's actually a cross-media, so I'll read down the short bio. So Hanna is a cross-media choreographer working with contemporary dance, digital technology in mediated performance, tangible technology and immersive performance. She's the artist and creative director of Skeleton Conductor XR art experience and the leader of Sounding Motion Sonified Corporeal Performance Research Project. She's the former artistic director of Loika, L-O-I-K-K-A Dance Film Festival in Helsinki, and curator of the virtual reality dance program at Loika. Recent XR curatorial work at Embrance XR Art Forum. She's currently a doctoral candidate at Performance Art Research Center Tutke, Helsinki University of Arts, research choreography in mediated interactive environments. So Hanna today will talk about the work behind the performative VR artwork Skeleton Conductor and her artistic research. She will also share info about the recent XR art event Embrace held in Helsinki, Finland in this year's September. And so welcome Hanna, and so to say the floor is yours.
Thank you. So I will share my screen. And are you, Carl, gonna keep the time and then tell me if I'm running over time too much? So, good evening from Helsinki. Lucky for me, we are in the same time zone, so it's not too late or early for me. I will talk a little bit about my work, and just in the end a little bit of the research that I'm doing. Then I hope that maybe we can get into Embrace more maybe in the panel, but just a few words about it quickly, that it was a very sort of freelance-based project to showcase XR art here in Helsinki. And well, originally we were hoping to showcase it more also internationally, but due to the COVID situation, we had to kind of reduce the event into just kind of one-day forum. We had 10 interactive artworks, and then well, it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly, but quite many sort of 360 cinematic experiences or films. And then we had kind of like a full day forum schedule where we had a lot of talks about from artists, and also from developers and from the sort of more kind of hardware and software industry people, but all kind of mostly related to art and the use of art, or the use of this sort of digital technology in art context. And it was very super nice, really nice conversations and a really nice turn up. But I think what you might be interested in Embrace, we also had this hackathon for 6 days. So we called it Hack Art On, not like a normal game hackathon, but like an event or an opportunity for students and professionals in from different areas to kind of meet and connect and work together. And we had kind of like hackathon sponsors or kind of like technical and content collaborators who provided a theme or a few themes that the people could work from and or where the ideation started. And then the participants formed teams, and then they worked together for 4 days, and then they presented or pitched their ideas into a jury, and then they selected kind of like a winner or a project that they will then in the future kind of help develop and fund. So I think that was also a really nice initiative to actually push this kind of artistic aesthetics in XR forward, and also to help people to connect with each other and can find collaborators. Because as an artist, I also think that that was one key problems I had in the beginning when I started working with Skeleton Conductor, because this was my first work that I did in 6.VR and in the game engine. So I really needed kind of special expertise. And I think that's still kind of a big question when we work in this kind of multidisciplinarity mediums that artists are interested in working with, but they might have problems of finding access to people who have the needed skills to actually kind of conceive these ideas or concepts that artists can come up with. But so that was kind of like a short intro of Embrace. And then I talk about Skeleton Conductor. I will quickly go talk a really short background of me. I'm a choreographer. I call myself cross-media choreographer because that's a title that I've kind of invented for myself. I've been working in the industry for 25 years, and with XR technology or sort of mediated technology for the past 10 or so years. I started with the sounding motion kind of practice, or more. It is more like an artistic research platform, I could even say, that was going on for quite many years. We created quite many performances within that. We used body placed sensors to kind of create sound from improvised movement, and then conceived or that sort of turned into more or less like a practice that I was leading with a group of dancers and sound designers and sort of technology engineers. The excerpts and resonance were 2 performances out of that project. The key concept was to sort of alter the performer's awareness and to cultivate this kinesthetic thinking that happens when we create this kind of like a perception loop and a live situation when the movement is connected to sort of interactive technology, and then augment it into something sound or light or some other sort of censored or kind of outputs that can be sensorially experienced on stage in the performance setting. I've also worked with more or less set choreography in a 360 environment with the dance film Devil's Lungs. That was directed by American director Alla Kovgan. So in my live performance and film work, I've worked with professional performers mostly. And through the mediation, I've focused in creating a dramaturgy of awareness for the performers and also for the audience or viewers. But in my recent VR work, Skeleton Conductor, I really wanted to plunge into thinking of this full body interactivity in VR and to allow the user or the audience to become the subject and the agent in their own experience. So in starting to work with the Skeleton Conductor, I wanted to explore the possibilities of creating an artwork for non-professional performers or the audience, and to provide this kind of an access of thinking through the body for sort of in a more inclusive way. And that's why I started exploring the VR tools. In the design process, I had some quite clear, kind of like stemming from the sounding motion practice, I had some quite clear sort of choreographic ideas that I wanted to conceive or use. This kind of main principle for me was the primacy of the kinesthetic experience, so that the artwork would be kind of fully movement based, and I was kind of wanting also to create a full body experience, interactive experience. The open-endedness was one kind of a important thing for me, because I have mostly work in my choreographic work, I work with improvisation. So this open-endedness and partially the polysolutionality is also kind of connected to this idea of improvising inside a VR environment, so that the interactivity or the activities that is sort of promoted inside the artwork would not be around some sort of a narrative or story or like a clear task that you need to fulfill, so that there would be no sort of a fixed way of experiencing the artwork, but rather multiple flexible ways of encountering it. And then also that there would not be any kind of this kind of like a dichotomy of good or bad or best or worse experience or way of being in it, but the sensory multisensorial exploration would be mostly about emphasizing this kind of freedom and noticing what is happening and noticing your own aesthetics within it. And this also sort of then led into inclusivity, so that it doesn't require any kind of prior skills of dance or music or VR. So it's quite sort of easy access in that sense, that any kind of body or any kind of from a person from any type of background would be able to experience it. Yeah, fun and pleasure, I think it's always kind of important in artworks, or not, I mean, not all in artworks per se, but in this kind of artwork, when you try to introduce something very novel to the audience as a medium, but also that I think VR, some sense, is kind of the expectations of VR are kind of entertaining in some ways. So I felt that that creating this kind of like a performative experience in VR would have to be a safe place for the person to encounter, so that they would feel comfortable of exploring their own movement and then their own sort of creative aesthetics inside, and that the artwork is kind of I would say kind of prompting or inducing more movement in the user. And this sort of playfulness, this kind of like a feeling of play, feeling of discovery, for me was really important. So what then? What it ended up being? So these what I was just talking were kind of like the goals or principles that I had when I started imagining the work, and kind of in the development process, what we were kind of researching throughout the process of creating it. So in the end, what it became to be is a quite intuitive synthesis of image and sound, and again kind of based on movement. So everything starts from movement, and basically kind of nothing happens if the user doesn't move or do something. So the artwork is kind of based on this, that the bodily actions produce and shape the visuals and musical dimensions inside the virtual world. And the experience is both kind of producing and simultaneously interpreting their own story. And the artwork becomes articulated in the lived moment. And as the virtual environment, this kind of virtual environment, which is not similar to the real world, it sort of simulates the physics, but differs from them. And therefore it gives this kind of an opportunity to visit the time when we were newborn to the world, and we were only learning the laws and principles through the bodily exploration and playing with the world, this kind of like playfulness. And this is again connected to this kind of embodied cognition theory. So this experimental return to the embodied learning harnesses the intelligence of the body as an interpreter of the world. And it's a constantly relived flow of observations of one's actions. There is there is this kind of like a viewer's dramaturgy in the work, what happens to the user. So the person is kind of being placed into the world, then they proceed to conceiving the principles and playing with them. And then in the end, when you learn how to control the audiovisual properties, this sort of creates this kind of a sense of power, a really strong agency, and this kind of a feeling that my actions matter in this world. And because of this immanent feedback loop, there is this kind of like a feeling of being recognized by the digital entity. There's a sense of contact and communication with the environment. And therefore I find that there is this ethical point of view, that while the work is kind of playful and beautiful and something that grants this kind of a creative freedom, the core statement in it is about being in the world as a responsible actor, and this kind of importance of becoming seen or being seen and heard by your actions. And this idea is that if you are not satisfied of what the artwork gives you or what is perceived, then you have to change your own behavior in it if you want to change the response that the artwork is giving you. I show you now a short video clip. Hope that you can hear the sound. Whoop.
Okay, Hanna. So
Whoa.
yeah,
Let me just go back to
time actually.
It's time. Okay.
It's pretty.
I can talk about
you can like if you have like
about
you can
the
have
research.
couple minutes maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I can just quickly say that about the artistic research that I am now, which I'm kind of in the beginning, but I'm kind of doing research on the on skeleton conductor. I don't know if you're seeing this. Why is it doing this all the time?
We are not seeing your screen at the moment.
Oh, you are not. Oh, you stopped sharing. Oh, okay. Did I stop sharing? No.
Yes, I think. Yeah. Now we see. You're
Here.
back.
Yeah. Sorry. So, no, why is it jumping? That's strange. It's
And then it also
somehow,
stopped sharing instantly. It's very odd.
yeah, it's somehow jumping out from the sharing. Oh well, I can talk about it quickly without the slide. So so I'm doing my artistic research, which one part is actually looking at the skeleton conductor artwork and the audience response more sort of specifically, and kind of asking quite basic questions about what this kind of like how this kind of a VR is it as a medium, how well does it suit for performance art, and how is it sort of perceived by the audience, and I guess the main question is really about this kind of double agency of the audience member when you become the creator or the artist and the audience or the perceiver at the same time. And then I think there's quite many sort of theoretical and even philosophical questions that it brings. Also, this strong agency, because this agency gives you the power, but then also, like I said, the responsibility of sort of conducting your own artwork, and then there is this. So I think when we design as artists, these kinds of experiences are I feel that there are quite many sort of ethical questions also that come into play, because these kind of experiences can be also really strong, and they can have a strong effect on the user or the perceiver. And I think that and also in the work of kind of like an artist work content, there's also these questions of what is it like to then, or like who becomes the artist in the end, and what is then the artist work when you are like, for me, for example, as a choreographer, I'm no longer choreographing human to human, but I'm choreographing this apparatus that then sort of choreographs or directs the perceiver or the audience. And then the whole kind of ontology of choreography is becomes questioned or shifted. And then, of course, as we all know, when we work with technology, there's a lot of technological questions that we need to first sort of figure out before we start using this technology, and what is it sort of giving us as artists. And for me, it's interesting that these kind of mediated spaces become these new stages for performance and for perception and for presence. The body is kind of touched by the technology, but it also interacts and incorporates the technology into the body or into the sort of human perception and human existence even. And these are these sort of entangled perceptual spaces or stages are I think is a very big question, or will be a big question, that how these are, or who is creating this, and how they are created, and for what, especially when we have this kind of development of these technologies are mostly in the hands of very big corporations. So yeah, so this is kind of there's still many questions in my research, and I'm in the beginning, so I'm not kind of I don't have any clear results yet, but these are the kind of main questions that I'm looking at. I'm really interested by the situation that this medium gives us, where we are kind of somewhere in between sort of sensing and knowing that there is this liminal space of unknowing, and what this unknowing space really reveals us about humanity and our thinking and our cognition and knowledge.
Okay, thank you, Hanna, very much. So I guess, we are a bit over the time, but I think we can still have a couple of questions from the audience. So please ask if you have some questions to Hanna. And
not a question, but I just want to say the final product looks very cool.
Thanks. It has been received quite well, yeah. And it has been quite strange for me that even during the COVID, it was released about a year ago, last fall, but it has still toured quite well. And it's quite strange that the artwork tours, but I'm not touring.
Are there some questions in the YouTube or no? Okay, no. Otherwise, I have a question actually. So, which is like, if we talk about dance traditionally, so it's very much about body awareness, and it's like, this is, I think, the basis of the traditional dance. So, where here, when you combine body movements with the virtual reality, I think, like, have you had reports from the audience maybe, or from the spectators, so how they perceive it? So because it's very big emphasis on visual and audio, particularly on visual perception. So kind of body movements becomes just a trigger for the visual perception. So how is that awareness play when you experience these kind of works? So doesn't it, how to say, doesn't the body becomes too instrumental just for triggering the visual experience? So don't you see a threat there, or maybe there's a kind of another really new direction for a dance? So
I think that's I think that's one of the questions that I'm actually studying or researching. I feel it's really a matter of design, of how you think of the design of the apparatus and how you design the interactivity. So in Skeleton Conductor, it's really the other way around, that there is really nothing happening if you don't move. And all, both the visuals and sound are directly connected to the movement in multiple ways, in multiple levels. So the visuals are quite simple, actually. And I mean, they're not static. There's quite a bit of movement of the particle system for themselves. So the particle system has a sort of life of their own, but it's conducted and affected by the movements. But it's actually, you know, relatively peaceful to sort of change a bit of the hierarchy of the senses, so that the perceiver would actually have, I call it this kind of like a bandwidth of perception, that if the visuals aren't taking all the bandwidth, then there's more room for actually paying attention to what kind of sound you are creating. And because you start becoming interested of the different sort of sonic elements, then you start looking for recreating something. So it's not really kind of composing something deliberately or cognitively, that you are deciding that this is I want to do, but it's more about perceiving. Like, there's always first an action, and then there's the computation, and then there's the perception of whatever the output is. And this perception loop is actually how it is connected or placed into the perception of the kinesthetic. And then the proprioception becomes the sort of most important sense somehow, because you can't continue if you don't realize where your body is. And and it's this kind of like matter of thinking of the design principles in a different matter than there's some sort of an output, and then you react to that. But when you change it the other way around, that the output comes from your action first, then the perception of the body changes, and that becomes the primary kind of like, that's the primary perceptive agent, the body.
Okay, thank you very much. Where your work can be seen in the nearest future?
At the moment, I don't know. It's I think the next place will be someplace in America, but I haven't heard yet, because there's this. There's there's a tour happening with some XR art, but it was just shown in Chicago and in London recently. But yeah, if you want to show it, you can contact me.
Good. Thank you.
I am the distributor. I'm the maker and the distributor.
Okay.
This is how it is nowadays, that we have to do everything.
All right. Thank you very much, Hanna. So we will move forward with next speaker. And the next speaker is Patrick Borgeat. He's a live coder, code-based artist, creative coder and programmer from Karlsruhe, Germany. From 2010 onwards, he performed all over the Europe with live coding band Benoit and Muddlebrot, so which got award at the honorary mention at the RIXC Prize Ars Electronica in 2012, and the audiovisual duo Ganzfield. He's currently teaching creative coding and computer music at Karlsruhe University of Music, and is nowadays mainly orientating himself to be a freelance software developer in the arts field, even though also hoping to do some art himself from time to time. Patrick will very briefly talk about DigEx, a project that was conceived at Karlsruhe University of Music to give musical students real-time feedback on psychological aspects of their playing using XR technology. So he will then talk about one of his ongoing projects, ARquatic, a collaboration with pianist Anne Weinberg and composer programmer Felipe Ignacio Norgea, which is also a live piano, live electronics and live augmented reality performance, where the pianist is live coding AR visuals using the piano as a programming interface. So welcome, Patrick, and we are keen to listen to your performance. Your speech, not the performance.
Yes, so hello. First, thanks for the introduction. Everybody sees a gray screen?
We see gray, yes.
Gray is good.
Yes.
Gray is the color. Okay, so before I very briefly will talk about the two projects, DigEx and ARquatic, I also first want to give a bit context into where I come from and also where these projects originated. And what you see at the moment, this is MOT at Karlsruhe University of Music, which houses, among other two institutes. One is the Computer Studio, which is an institute or like a department that is mostly concerned with media technology, audio recording, music technology, and so on. And the Institute for Music Informatics and Musicology, in short, IMVI, where I studied and where I worked for 5 years and where I am now still a teacher. And at IMVI, we are trying to explore the relationship between the human, music, and the computer in all its facets. So we are concerned with computer-based music analysis. We're concerned with how the usage of the computer changes music perception or how people interact with music. And we're also concerned, and this is my primary interest, in how computer technology can create new ways of making music, performing music, or if computer technology might even create completely new forms of music that were not thinkable before or not realizable before. We had now these machine in front of us all the time that get faster and faster, so to say. And from 2016 on, with the release of HTC Vive and Oculus Rift, we also are experimenting with virtual reality technology. Students experiment with audiovisual, new ways of creating audiovisual performances or audiovisual pieces in virtual reality for a higher degree of immersion, but they are also exploring ways on how to do music performance or music composition tools in virtual reality. And so if you think now that this Karlsruhe University of Music is a very technological place, then this is only one side of the coin, because there's not only the fancy new MOT building, but there's also here the Castle Gottesauer, which is actually the main building of the music university. And in that sense, the music university is really also a traditional music conservatory. So we have the music technology and we have music journalism, but most of the students are just aspiring to become a professional violinist or pianist, or they study music theory or composition. In 2020 then, or even before, but it got mostly realized in 2020, Federal State of Baden-Württemberg started a grant which was about the digitalization of the music studies of the professional, of studying to become a professional music at all the music conservatories in Federal State of Baden-Württemberg. And instead of just buying tablets to teach music theory or some other things that maybe were envisioned by this grant, we were starting a research project called DigEx, which is trying to basically, the idea behind DigEx is to create mirrors using technology. In that sense, we have here, for example, example of sensors. We have a motion capture system, and we have biosensors, which are measuring the electrical activity in the muscles. And if you would have a bad posture, for example, and you would know that, you would maybe go in front of a mirror and then observe yourself while you're playing, and then you could see, oh yeah, this is now not good, so you can correct it. But the idea is more or less that for some things, it might not be easily visible, or it might not be that it is really feelable maybe. And so, yeah, through sensor technology and through augmented reality technology, we are trying to build these mirrors. And I will now give two very rough examples. The project is, like, also through COVID, did not progress very quickly, so it's super rough, sketches, so to say. Here we see a violinist, and you see basically amplification of his shoulders, and he will basically pull up his shoulder, which is not a desired thing to do. And these spheres turn red, signifying that it's a bad thing. And you also have this amplification of the skeletal structure, basically. And this is now also more this teacher view. So it was realized with the HoloLens and augmented reality glasses, but we were also aiming for phone-based AR and even for 2D displays. But yeah, this is meant for a teacher to get additional information about the playing of the violinist. And the other mode would really be that the musician, him or herself, would wear augmented reality glasses to get some additional information. In that case, we have two bars now in the viewing field of the pianist that are representing muscle tension and the relaxation of muscles in the hand wrist. So very rough, and I also don't want to talk much longer about this project anymore, because there's another project I'd rather talk about, but thought it might be also interesting as another aspect of where augmented reality technology is actually going, that it is not only a platform for art, but can also be just seen, or is also actually just be researched as a tool, even though now it is a tool that should also benefit the arts, so to say. But yes, if there's more questions, we can then discuss them later. What we are also doing a lot at this institute is live coding practice. And live coding is a performative improvisation practice using source code, doing music, sound, or visuals. So this is a typical live coding scene, so to say. You have a performer or a group of performers. They are writing and modifying source code and are executing the source code, and then sound will happen or visuals will happen, and time is shaped in that way. And this is from 2013 Live Codes Festival, which took place at IMBY. And this is where I met this lady here, Anne Weinberg. And then later I also got introduced to her collaborator, Felipe Ignacio Noriega. Anne is a pianist, grew up in Australia, performs all kinds of music, also a lot of contemporary music, and performs the toy piano. And Felipe is composer, programmer, so studied composition, but also applies algorithmic techniques in his works, and also creates interactive music systems, and so on. And the two of them have already for a long time an ongoing project called the Codeclavier, where they are trying to develop a programming language that is programmed or played or performed on the piano, which also anyways is meant to happen in this live coding context, where anyways the programming is the integral part of the performance, and it is just a different kind of new musical interface, so to say, that goes through the abstraction of code. And Anne and Felipe were approaching me if I want to collaborate with them. And as I was at that time kind of interested really into diving into VR and XR technology, I suggested that we should try to create a system where Anne, the pianist, is building augmented or a virtual reality world around her for the audience to also experience. And so basically here, the Codeclavier, or the Codeclavier, we like our puns, the Codeclavier AR project started. And we met back and forth and ended up, with some ideas. And I want to talk about now a bit how this Codeclavier AR system works. Quite early on, we were thinking about what could be a good model on how Anne playing the piano is actually constructing the world. And very early, and in the end also the final idea was then that we use Lindenmayer systems, which are already a classic technique for generative graphics and generative worlds, used in games and in digital effects, and everywhere where you basically need to generate plant-like structures. It was originally invented or formalized by Aristide Lindenmayer, who actually used it also to describe plant growing. And the fundamentals of this Lindenmayer systems are quite simple. You have basically the things on the left, which is you have a Lindenmayer system has an alphabet, so a set of symbols. Here it is ABC. And then you have an initial word or an axiom. Here it's just basically one of the symbols, C. And then you have these rewriting rules. So I now put here 3 rewriting rules. C becomes B, B becomes CAC, and then A becomes AAC. And then what you do is just that you start with your initial word, and then you apply the rules. So C becomes B. And then from this point up, you again apply the rules. So B becomes CAC, and so on, and so on, and so on. And you basically get 2 things. First of all, you get a string of symbols here that you can use for things. But the other thing is that you get this tree-like structure, which is then also representable in this graphic shape. So this is the fundament of the ARquatic system, and it has one nice property. and that is that basically cannot really make syntactic errors. Like for everybody who programs knows that this is an issue with programming, that you need to follow a grammar very rigorously, otherwise the computer will not understand it. And this grammar here is actually quite simple. And every combination of symbol is valid in a sense. And so things can get maybe too large or can get a weird shape, but the program will not crash or the program will not be invalid. So this is the world building rules of ARquatic. And this is then the programming interface of which more or less resembles what I showed here, but shown in a different way. This is the tree that is growing. We have the rules and we have the axiom here. But the actually programming code we see here. So Anne is performing it on the piano. And this means that Felipe, who developed the Codeclavier, had to find also ways on how to embed these codes into the music. And they came up with this system for now, that there is basically some meaningful pitches here, like the C and the B sharp and the B flat and the B flat here. And that they create these symbols that are like, that basically are also numerals, using something called a Lambda Calculus. So these are functions here. This is E is evaluate, S is successor, I is identity, and you basically read it backwards. So this is the successor of the identity, and identity in this case is 0. So this would be a 1, and this would be then 1, 2, 3, and so on. And these notes are embedded then in the musical improvisation, and by keeping track of what Anne is doing and playing around, she can in fact perform the visuals, and also her let's say her loudness or the velocity of her playing is also then controlling the visuals. In its first iterations, it looked like this. These are now very early sketches, also without sound actually. Here you see the program interface, and these were the first sketches on how these L systems then get translated to visuals, and then can be observed through a tablet or through a phone, in this case over the piano. Then later we also changed a bit the visuals up and were experimenting what could look good, and yes, what we want to do. But in the end we found that, or we felt that it lacked a bit direction, and so we were thinking about finding a theme to basically make a piece or a series of performances out of this technical framework that we created. And so we came up with ARquatic, which is themed around plant life that is inspired by underwater world. And so here you see then basically the shapes or the forms that Anne can grow with her playing. Then it is forming the performance, so to say. We'll play a very short trailer so that you get an impression on the music and about what you can see with ARquatic. Not again. ARquatic is available as an app for in the stores, Google Store and in the Apple Store. And maybe to illustrate also like one aspect of it, because otherwise it is not really clear what is happening. The audience will have their phones. The people in the audience will have their phones in the audience space, will listen to the music being played, and their app will render the visuals generatively just from these L system rules and from the control data, which is then transmitted from the performer to the server. So it is also a way to actually stream augmented reality to a device with very, very little data, because it's just these rule sets. Yeah, the dark times came though then. So yeah, we started pre-COVID, then we finished in COVID. And in the end, we were then not so oft really performing it, but we were in where we were doing this, which we called ARquatic at home. So we had a stream of the music or a streamed recording of the music, and then you were able to use the app to place the augmented reality in your home. And this is also where I kind of want to end with, because this then felt very meaningful suddenly in a time where some people didn't have much contact around. The places felt empty without life. And then in this, when everybody was already so oversaturated with the live streams that still always happen on the screens in front of you, then the augmented reality really gives a chance to add something, and that is then maybe to bring some life into the spaces that are otherwise sometimes empty. Yes, and that was it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Thank you very much for your interesting presentation. So again, yeah, we have a little time for a few questions. So please go ahead and ask if you have questions to Patrick.
It works only for specific songs written for that specific language, not just any like Mozart symphony. Is that right?
I mean, you could just run any kind of music through there and see what would happen. But she is improvising with it, so she also has an understanding of she wants to create a specific thing, and then has to think about how to create music that is both musically meaningful and then also like has this code embedded that would create a certain shape. Or she's just exploring them. You know, not always it is clear what will happen when you change the rules in a certain way. So it's also this experiment that she does on the stage. But technically you could run every music through it and see what happens.
Okay.
Are there like any presets for the themes that happens, or is it purely random? For example, like I saw there was some circles, then some cubes. Does it happen? Do you like set it so that it shows something like that, or does it happen on its own?
Yeah, there's a finite set of shapes that are already like designed, and these shapes then basically are the rules on how to translate these abstract trees that a Lindenmayer system creates into actual shapes, and also like controls the movement and how they like react to the velocity of the loudness of her playing, for example. So these are a finite set, but how they are shaped and their size and things like this and the colors, this is then again controlled by the programming language.
Okay.
Okay. More questions?
Can I ask then if she's improvising and sort of simultaneously then also at least partially thinking about what is the visualization? Have you discussed with her that how does that then affect her playing or kind of the practice of musicianship?
I mean, we developed it like the three of us basically together. So it was always a feedback loop between all the participants, and she also wished basically, she also had her wishes on how the thing should react or what should be possible and what not. I mean, for sure, she performs differently than she would otherwise do. But then it is also a very specific performance, so to say, as she's like not only doing the music, but also the visuals at the same time. So it's like painting and playing the piano at the same time with the piano. But for sure, it is like, for sure, it's a different music performance for her also. And limiting, of course, because she has like a different cognitive load, but it's also an experiment anyways in interface.
Because I just find it fascinating because there's a lot of similarities to the sounding motion practice when we were kind of improvising dance and movement and then sonifying that into music. But because of the sort of factualities of the different elements that, visual elements you need to see, and that demands quite a bit of concentration from the music playing, kind of in the contrary to kind of dancing and then having it like audible, the sort of augmentation. For us, it was interesting because the audible augmentation became another way of connecting with a fellow dancer without the visual kind of access to the person. And that was an interesting because, I can see why she kind of partially can experience it being limiting, but it's just, kind of due to the property of the different senses.
It is, and you could also see that this whole Codeclavier project is a very, it is, how to say, it is a very specific project, and then it tries to take out what a pianist has trained so long for, and is trying to put this abstract level of like programming on top of their at all. So what we see, the visuals might also be just one step like further even, but what she's actually like really interacting with is the computational system, which is then like maybe more visible to herself only and not so much to the audience, but this is the direct link. And then the visuals are like even a step further. But this is then more a property also of performing with algorithms in general, instead of performing with algorithms, like performing the algorithms, like creating the algorithms on the stage, or performing with algorithms on the stage. There's already like this level in between.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Some other questions, maybe?
I think I have one. This system has been very much made and catered for this particular pianist. So have you tried it out with different pianists who don't know that they're using this system and just to see what happens?
This is, I mean, this Codeclavier project is already going for a longer time. It was always in their a plan of them also to introduce other pianists to this whole Codeclavier system. It is not only this performance; they have a lot of different extensions for it. As far as I know, not this one so far, and I'm not sure even if they tried one of their other systems. It is very catered to the pianist, but it is all open source, so people could try it if they would want to, and they also try to document it a bit. But yeah, I don't think so.
Okay. Oh, I just have maybe additional question to Rogier's question. So have you thought about extending it to more instruments, like let's say kind of chamber orchestra or something like that, so instead of just the piano?
The piano has an interesting property that it's already digital. When you think about digital comes from the finger, you have the discrete information in a piano, and this makes it particularly suitable to something like this. I guess while one could think about this, it is not yet, it was not yet realized or really thought about in the scope of this project, but one could, using machine listening maybe, or simple mapping of pitch, for example, one could also think of discretizing the playing or the performance of a musician, and then do a similar transformation.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. And yeah, we will continue with our next speakers. And those are actually our hosts, Maija, Demitere, and Rogier Jupijn. And they will talk about their most recent project. They both are based in Liepaja. They both are teaching at the Liepaja University at the New Media Arts program. And so tonight they'll present, and I'm also very keen on to see this. So their Artplus.app platform, which is a virtual platform for placing artworks in actual Liepaja virtual environment. So in the city of Liepaja, so to say. Yeah. So and I think the platform is not kind of finished yet, or is it? But you'll tell us. So, and please welcome Maija and Rogier.
Hello. Yes, the platform is not finished. We are running into some deadlines, so we are planning to finish it around Christmas. So we will release it around Christmas. And this Artplus is a combination of this phone app that would be a kind of quite traditional augmented reality object looking viewing app, and a 360 website. We live in Liepaja. We are based in Liepaja. We don't want to move. We are small town people, and we like the quiet. However, when you live in a small town, you are also limited in your audience because small town people are not, first of all, there's not that many of them. And out of those that you do get, there's a limited amount of people who are interested in kind of high art or media or art or kind of bit of a complicated art. So the challenge was how to get people to look at art in this time of kind of not really COVID anymore, but still a bit limited viewing space. And even when we do open a gallery space and we make an exhibition, we don't get too many people visiting. Again, because they are not interested and there's not that many of them. So how to get people to look at weird media art? And we now live in this time of applications. So we use applications for everything. So to promoting healthy food, application. And how to get people to lose weight, get an application. Everything has an app for it. So I also thought maybe we can make an app for media art, and put also a bunch of fun stuff in this app to get as many people, as many different kinds of people interested in kind of sneaking new media art into people's lives in Liepaja. So that's the one part. And the second part is we actually want some people to look at those artworks, and so we created also this 360 environment where we are publishing the same objects in 360 video environment, so people who don't live in Liepaja and who don't care to come to Liepaja could also go and look at the beautiful artworks that are created mainly in Liepaja. So we can show a couple of examples of tests that we are making. Can we start with bread?
We can start with bread, yeah.
This is one of the projects that will be in the app. I really like this project. It was made by a recent graduating student, a master's student, and she. Can we actually see it?
Of course.
And so she made this funny little thing, and it is this. And I really like this example because as I imagine me as a person living in Liepaja, if I could go to this, this is a very kind of popular walk place for walks, and so we could put nice little artworks in places around Liepaja that people could walk around and look at. This is a funny little thing. We also have a lot more serious artworks, but they haven't been placed yet, except for another master's student's project.
Which one would you like?
The cube.
The cube. I think I will reshare the screen, but this time with make it nice for videos.
Why aren't you sharing that screen as you want?
So we'll do this one because it's already there. Yeah. And I have to get it from here.
And this project was also made by a master's graduating student. This is our street. This is where we live. And this was his project. He was also felt pressured by the COVID times, so his project ended up being his room. And I found this project just absolutely beautiful. It's looking at the textures in this room. I find them so interesting that you can just explore the room endlessly. And so we are placing this room in also as an object somewhere in Liepaja. Can we stop sharing?
Yes.
And so the plan was to get as many as different artworks as possible. So including sound walks, compositions, and these 3D environments, 3D objects, sculptures. We are also experimenting with children's drawings, so to get even more more different audiences, because each child comes with his bubble. So parents, friends, a classroom, and a school. I think we are sharing another drawing. This is a sketch made by Liga. So you can see the children's drawings together with the 3D model, and so we will add animation to this, and we will place these little creations made by children next to children's playgrounds, or maybe next to schools. We can stop sharing. So the idea was to kind of cover Liepaja with many different art projects, and to present media art and sound art to people in Liepaja, and to also present them in the 360 website, because we actually want someone to notice them, because the artworks are mainly made by our students and graduates, so we are all just young artists and kind of people who work in many different fields and really like to create media art. it is not finished, so I don't have an app to show, but look forward to it and search for it around Christmas. We are really hoping that that's when it's going to be finished.
If I can add something, this whole project has been thought of by Maija, and I am working together with Patrick and Eva as the technical team to make this, to realize this project. And one of my own opinions on this project, because it's not my own creation, but I'm very happily working in it, is what I really like is this this kind of connection between, as Maija said, we're living in Liepaja, and I'm not from here, I'm from the Netherlands, so I have friends and family in there, and I want to share stuff with them. So that's why I really like that we have this web version to kind of give you a glimpse, a light version of whatever this artwork is. And then it also becomes this invitation to go to this, to this real space and walk around and visit it. And I think I quite like it, as mentioned before. It's not just more conceptual, high, difficult art for that niche group of people who are really into that, and that's really for them. But it's also, as we showed, these children's drawing where you have in your schoolyard the children can run around and see their drawings life-size walking around, and the parents can come and look at it. We can also talk to the more educational institutions within the city, like nature houses, and work with them. So it becomes also this touristy thing where you are taking this digital element and using it to promote the city, to promote going to certain locations. You can still work with students who are developing their artwork and place a virtual gallery somewhere. So I'm quite excited when this will be launching, not because people will need to come here, we invite them to come here, but also because they can already get a sneak preview on the website, basically, which is a really weird mix of, I don't think you can call it AR because I'm not sure what it is. It's a video that we made, so that's the reality part, and then we're putting this, but it is really on your screen, so you don't have to be there. But I'm quite happily living in that space. So yeah, I think. Do you have anything to add?
That's it.
Yeah, that's it from us.
Hey, thank you very much. So yeah, are there any questions from audience to Maija and Rogier about the app and about the project?
Is the app going to be free? Okay, cool.
Yes.
So some other questions? Are you gonna, so Maija mentioned so that there will be artworks by let's say professional artists, and then there will be children drawings, for instance. Are you planning to make some kind of distinction between them? You're planning to, I mean, like how you curate the whole content for this kind of app? It's sort of open on the one hand, on one side, but at the same time, so it's most likely not open for all kinds of things. So it's have you set any kind of structure for curating the content?
We are working. We have two curators for the more difficult art part. We work with Krista Dinter, who is curating the sound part, and Anne Priedola, who is working with media art. And I have appointed myself to curate what I call it the open art, the public artworks.
The plus part, so.
Yeah, the plus part. And so at this point, we don't have that many kind of candidates. So everyone who wants to be a part of this, I welcome everyone. I don't really foresee in near future that we would be so overworked that we can't accept any more artworks. Like for example, we are talking with the Liepaja Museum because they have huge archives of artworks that are just sitting in archives, and no one's seeing them. And also with I am kind of sneaking my own doctoral research in it. And so at this moment we are open to everyone and everything who wants to apply. But I do believe that it's not a kind of mass production. So if a person has an idea, we can just discuss this, and up to we get to a nice aesthetic result. So if we have an idea, if anyone listening has an idea, we can still add artworks. Yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
But, yeah, I think for the moment, if I can intervene. Yeah. I think for the moment we are really trying to get the concept, the prototype of the ground, to kind of demonstrate what it can be. And that's also why the kind of artworks and models and projects within the Artplus is quite diverse, kind of to really show what can be and what fits in a system maybe. But I can imagine that when we're really talking about curating, that something will become time-based, where there will be 2 weeks of these kind of artworks in the city, and maybe there might be even, if you're talking about distributing this application to people from the museum, that initially they can select, I want to see museum-related stuff around them, and not just be flooded with all the artworks in there. But these are really interesting things we must, I think, just kind of experience, and also let's see what time tells us, and also what kind of people register and are interested in working with us. So the curating question is a good question, but some that we have that we will discuss when the time is there, I think.
Yes.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. Are there more questions maybe? So otherwise, we will move to our last presentation tonight by Ieva Vīksne and Līga Vēliņa. And so they will talk about several projects they've done together. And they both have graduated from Liepaja. Ieva is a new media artist from Riga, and she holds BA in New Media Art and History, and is currently studying her MA in VR and Smart Technologies at Vidzemes University, which is in Valmiera. So experienced in VR and AR through different art-related projects, Ieva is interested in topics currently connected to human experience, feminism, self-representation, and mental health. Currently lecturing in the Art Academy of Latvia and University of Liepaja. Oh, that was timer. Līga, however, is a media artist, illustrator, and graphic designer based in Riga, and she's working with various digital media, data visualization, virtual reality, 3D art, video art tools. She has studied new media art in Liepaja, and she got her MA at Visual Communication Department at the Academy of Art in Riga. So they have been awarded, their work has been awarded. In 2020, they got second place in Women in Tech first hackathon in Riga. And in 2019, they got Delphi Campus Award in Riga If Goes VR, 24-hour Magnetic Latvia hackathon. So please, Ieva and Līga, you're welcome with your presentation.
Thank you. Okay. So you should be seeing our screen, right? Yes, good.
So thank you for introduction. We will present our journey from hackathon to virtual reality experience development for Jānis Lipke Memorial and international collaboration. And Jānis Lipke Memorial is a memorial museum located on the island in Ķīpsela in Riga. And it's located next to the former home of rescuer of Jews, Jānis Lipke, where he had arranged a shelter for rescued Jews from Riga ghetto during World War II. And what interests us as artists is to engage with our audience in the most powerful way. And through our work, we have found that virtual reality is a powerful platform for environmental storytelling and teaching through empathy. In 2019, we decided to participate in the VKKF Goes VR hackathon, and our team consisted of 4 media artists: Kaspars Lēvelts, Ieva Vīksne, Lauris Taube, and me. And in 24 hours, we created a prototype in response to the challenge given by Lipke Memorial. We created a virtual reality experience of living room in Riga ghetto, which gave a chronological insight into what happened there over the first 3 months after its creation by Nazis in 1941. The task was to create a 3-dimensional artistic linear experience about dramatic events when the 25,000 inmates of the Riga ghetto were killed into the mass graves. And after the hackathon, we started to collaborate with the Lipke Memorial on developing the Lipke bunker virtual reality prototype. An underground 3x3 meter space under the shed in a yard of Lipke's family house where the fugitive Jews found refuge. The main idea was to recreate Lipke bunker in a 3-dimensional environment and make this interactive virtual reality experience interesting to a youth audience. The aim was to find a way to teach history in a new, engaging way through empathy, while looking at the bunker through one person's perspective. And the first iteration of VR Bunker was presented last year, November 2020, at a public event at Lipke Memorial, announcing at once the plans for the House of Courage, educational center, and digital makerspace. So now we will display a video fragment of our first iteration. So the positive feedback we received spurred us to keep developing this project. And Lipke's Memorial reached out to the Minneapolis-based creative technologist at Fallon Worldwide, Corey McLeod, and engaged his interest in consulting on the development of this project. And this year, Fallon decided to partner with the Lipke Museum on a pro bono basis to develop the second iteration of the Lipke Bunker virtual reality experience. Eva?
This fall, Jānis Lipke Memorial, in cooperation with the University of Latvia, at a research project Memo Tours, was carrying out an empathy mapping research of the Lipke Bunker VR. So empathy mapping is considered one of the user experience methodologies. So the aim of the research was to identify the experiences and attitudes of the target group, young people 18 to 25-year-olds, about the VR that they tested in specially organized focus groups by social anthropologists Diana Popova and Elizabeth Greenblatt. So the results showed that after interacting with the objects in VR and hearing personified stories about historical events and objects, the audience looked at real-life exhibition with greater interest. So participants also said that VR experience was expected not to be so graphically rendered and even aesthetically pleasing. And since this is a work in progress prototype, such an exercise could help in the continuous design process. Importantly, The target audience suggested that the Lipke bunker VR experience should be integrated into the exhibition of the Jean Lipke Memorial as the first thing when visiting the museum, as it gives the most immersive experience of the historical, physical, and social context of life in bunker. After having the VR experience, viewing the scenography of the exhibition and the physical artifacts and showcases give much more meaning to the visit of the memorial. So research demonstrates that VR technology is a powerful tool to engage youth in the learning process. Gamification, such as adding game mechanics to such educational experiences, speak to young audiences, and we speak their predominantly visually immersive language. Another aspect is virtual reality's presence effect and its immersive nature. Through technological tools, we can recreate proportionally correct one-to-one scale environments, and through three-dimensional soundscapes and lighting, we can intensify emotions. So where are we now? In the first sprint of the project, we focused on developing the core story of the bunker space in Tiepsel as seen from Ziggy's, Janis Lipke's son, perspective. The current development of the project augments the scope of the perspectives to include the stories of those people whom Lipke helped evade the Holocaust. So this augmentation of multiple perspectives and stories is intended to create a nonlinear interactive experience, which captures the scale of the effect that Lipke efforts had during the Holocaust. We are currently developing a story of a family from Berlin, Hanna and Sophia Stern, and the Sterns were deported from Berlin to Riga in January 1942, and were able to escape from Kaiserwald concentration camp, now known as Meshparks, in one of Lipke's most challenging rescue operations. And to sum up, we're collaborating with Corey MacLeod and Fallon to take the project to a new level. For instance, we're using different, more complex artistic methods than in previous iteration. We're using three-dimensional environment combined with hand-drawn illustrations, and we're using metaphors and symbols to create the experience more interesting and engaging. We're also deploying a fieldwork as method. This includes exploring historical Riga ghetto places, taking photos of historical buildings, and mapping them onto 3D objects, including them into overall virtual reality experience. Liga?
As Eva mentioned, during the summer, we were working with storyboard and narrative while creating visuals and ideas and discussing how to picture main characters and what kind of artistic expressions. Now, while Corey is working with structure of application and user experience, and Eva is working with fieldworks, I am creating hand-drawn illustrations which will be implemented in a three-dimensional environment as animations, projected on surfaces and objects. However, we are also very happy that our teammates Kastas and Maurice will soon join our team again as the artists. And to conclude this presentation, as Corey has summed it up, our focus is on his Lipke story to life as an asynchronous virtual reality experience that tells a nonlinear story of radical social justice, employing future technology to reach into the past and open dialogue about the present.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think very loaded and interesting presentation, and also the experience which you shared about how you worked with particularly with Lipke's memorial. So yeah, are there questions? Please, welcome to ask questions to Eva and Liga.
When can we see the next step in this journey?
We cannot promise now, but it can be around end of next year, maybe.
Yes, we're working on creating kind of a 3-minute VR experience. And actually, our goal is not only Lipke Memorial, but also because Corey works in the United States, and he has a lot of people interested also in this project. So we hope that this can go beyond just Lipke Memorial. So Most likely, yeah. The end of next year could be the time when something could be visible, because as you saw from the process, it's a lot of handcraft, I would say, what Liga is doing, drawing and animating things and combining it together with 3D objects and kind of making this 2D and 3D work together and to create the specific aesthetic, which is kind of, well, in a visual way relates to the age when this happens, so the period of time. So I think there's a lot of work for it to be done until this is ready.
Thank you. Some more questions, maybe.
I see a question in the chat.
So
It's in a Zoom chat. No, yeah. Can you see it, Liga, Eva?
yes. So what are the platforms you're using for production process? I guess there are several tools we're using. Obviously, such things as meetings and file sharing, that's the less interesting thing, but we're using free software as Blender and Unity for creation right now. We plan to make most of the objects. Maybe we'll use something from the stock, but currently we're planning to making everything by ourselves. And that's why it's kind of great to have this team of diverse creators that we're all actually pretty well versed in VR. So we kind of know how to make things work in VR, which is great. Not only as a VR experience, but also 3D objects and so on. I don't know, did that answer the question about the platforms?
Yes, that's great. Thank you. Yeah.
Are there any other people or events that you would like to turn into the experiences like this?
It's a hard question. I mean, when we came to the hackathon, there were several topics. It was like, when was it? In 2019. And when we heard this Jānis Lipke's story, I'm local from Riga, and I've heard just something about Jānis Lipke, but I had no idea who he was and what he did. And when you encounter a story that's this important, and as Corey has also emphasized, the radical social justice part, which is very important in nowadays, it's kind of hard to look at other stories and projects. I think at least I'm really immersed into this, and in the future, if hopefully this project goes on and reaches the audience, we hope to make more stories of these people who Jānis Lipke helped, because there are many lives that depended on him, and what he did is incredible, and more people should know about it. And if we can kind of shed a light on this story and make it more appealing to young people, I mean, I don't know. Maybe another interesting story will pop up, but this far, I think we have our hands full with Jānis Lipke and his kind of legacy that he's left behind.
All right, cool.
I have another question if there's still time.
Yeah, we have plenty of time, I would say.
Oh, excellent. You mentioned that in this, because it's quite an intensive process in production, where you have these drawings and these 3D models, so this aesthetic style that you've chosen. And you mentioned before that that VR helps to really immerse and to amplify the emotional response from the people using it. This style that you chose now, was it also a result from this kind of, VR being able to do this? Because I'm guessing it's quite easy to go not to a very cartoony style to show a very, dramatic event, but what were the choices that you made in creating or choosing this style for the next version?
The idea came from Corey, and like I don't know, we just thought it would be like new way to actually show that kind of story.
Corey was actually inspired by an artist who was himself a Holocaust survivor, who was drawing these black and white drawings, and that kind of stylistically moved him to this kind of concept. And we thought that it would be very interesting because, like, obviously after he saw the experience that we've made, and we all are, all four of us are 3D artists, and but this was kind of the biggest and most intense work we've done this far, not personally, but like as a team. So it was really beneficial to have his feedback. And what he said is that our original iteration looks very CGI computer gamey, which was a feedback that we got from him only. From the people who tried it out didn't feel that way, but that's like, again, from Corey's perspective, because he's very experienced as a creative technologist, and he's seen a lot of stuff and he knows what can be done. And so, yeah, he proposed us to mix up the style and kind of take the idea that we have and the motion that we've started, but kind of to depart it to a new, more cinematic level in a way, more using more imagination in a way, if you can say that, because it's also using different shaders to achieve this, you know, kind of mixing it up to make it, yeah, more, I'd say, movie-like, not a game-like, which is our experience, the first we made in Bunker. But then again, that was our aim, to make it kind of a gamified experience of this bunker. So I hope that answers the question, yeah.
Okay. Some more questions?
Yes, I have a question. You mentioned at the start that your project was primarily aimed towards youth. Did you experience any trouble teaching the users how to engage with your device, how to engage with the control scheme, and sort of learn how to manipulate the world and go through it and, you know, sort of discover everything there is to discover?
I mean, yeah, there's definitely some learning curve. One additional thing that we would definitely add to the iteration, the first one, was some more instructions, although we instructed people, but the way we tried to solve it is, as we have several spaces in the first iteration. So we have a garden where the house is located of the Janis Lipke, and then there's the place where the bunker is. And so when you're plunged into this VR experience, you're basically in an open space and you have no real direction where to move. So, and then we, inspired by other VR experiences, we saw these little footsteps where you should move. And so in these small, simple ways, we try to guide the user kind of in a non-genius way, where to go and kind of what to do. But that's definitely a thing to definitely work on, because depending on which Oculus you're using or which headset in general you're using, the controls are different, and we see that definitely needs to be worked in the experience in the beginning before starting to use it. But yeah, that's definitely a concern.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Some more questions? If not, then I will squeeze in with my question, which actually will be to all panelists, and you can answer so as you feel. Because I've written my thesis on preservation of new media art and digital art. So I have a question. Have you thought of longevity of your projects, art projects, what you are doing now? Because they are very tied to this particular or one or another technology. And we know in this technological race, so it becomes very quickly, so to say, obsolete. Yeah. Have you thought about kind of side steps? I don't know, recording everything on video or doing something else. So are there any kind of practices for that already? Or maybe it's too early to ask, but it's never too early.
I guess we can start off this discussion. We have video recordings of the experience by a user, but that's in a way the only way how to conserve it. And yeah, definitely that's a question that's very urgent considering these kinds of medias. But in a way, they're only coming in the museums now. So I have a hope that the museums don't develop as quickly as the general technology media world. So hopefully those headsets will be current or in use in 5 years, hopefully, but might as well not.
For ARquatic, it's always like, I mean, it is a living thing. It is anyways performed, and in that sense, you also can do a recording of it, and this is done and everything. But if it will not be continued to be performed, and this means to continue to develop it anyways, and this means to switch platforms when one is not feasible anymore, it will anyways die, and the only remains will then be the artifacts like video recordings and everything. So I don't think about it, to be honest, and I just hope that it will continue to live.
Yeah, I have thought about it, yes. And I think in some cases, I think this is it is a problem when I mean, especially if we think about the art market, in the sense that this kind of like virtual reality, digital art does not really have a viable market because it is quite quickly obsolete. I guess skeleton conductor is somehow related to what Patrick said, that because it's a performed artwork and it's never the same for each performer, it's sort of it's alive as long as I get funding and money to upgrade it to new platforms that may that may change, and I guess that's a kind of like a art market problem also. But in some sense, because I'm a choreographer and performance art is a kind of like an art form that only exists when it's being performed. So I'm kind of used to that my artworks have they have an arc of a time span that they live, and then if you want to sort of revise it, then it might be possible, but it's quite rarely done, or it never will be the same in any way, even if you kind of revise it. And then the only thing that is left is your possible documentation, which might be, I mean, when I think about the artwork that I did in the 90s and the documentation of those are, I don't know if I would ever want to show them to anybody. And I think it might be the same case with our documentation of the virtual, the sort of like, let's say, headset video, videos that from the first person view. I don't know, like for skeleton conductor, the first person view doesn't make any sense. It's only the third person view that gives you some sort of an idea of what does it look like from the outside, but you will never get the feel from the video. How does it feel? So I don't know, it's a difficult. I think the artwork is not in any way represented in the video. And then it dies. But in terms of art market, this is a huge problem. And I think it also influences how virtual artworks are funded.
Yeah, that's the whole new topic, the art market. But what Maija and Rogier, have you thought about the question I asked?
Yeah, it's I think until we will get funding to update the app will exist. After that, it's yeah, just it doesn't exist as a 360 video and this 3D object inside the video. That's already a representation, and I think that's the technology that can last a tiny bit longer, while the app actually dies quite quickly if it's not updated. So it's yeah, I think the app is kind of more like a fun little thing on the way, And once if we don't get funded, then the app just dies.
It's difficult questions, these are. I don't know. We need to get this. I really feel that the state that AR is in now, like with your phones, is a very poor state of AR. It's like comparing it to the very first Pong game, where we now have ultra realistic stuff, because you are so limited to the size of your viewport, and you are, the whole point is to look at this world and then overlay some digital reality to it. But we're doing it through this tiny display. I mean, I see so many degrees of around me, and I have such a small thing that I look through, and I'm not really looking through it. I'm looking through the camera. So when I go close and I look like this, I don't look past it. So I really hope that we get to this point where really we are wearing contact lenses and then look at the world, and it really gets overlaid. But that we'll need some funding for the next 50 years to update the app every time the AR device that we're using gets updated, so the app can also, because the concept of the app doesn't need to be updated. That's fine. That's already there. It's really just how to integrate it in the technology that represents the AR at that time, basically.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if we are all hoping for the future of contact lenses for ARs, but I'm thinking, like, have you researched about, like, could it be possible that in the future this AR could be like as standardized as, I don't know, JPEGs and MP3s, like stuff that are already kind of timeless? Like, could it be something that standardized that could withstand like all the future technologies afterwards with just like something more simple? Like, I don't know, I'm not like that technical in this field, but I assume that would be the best future, is that like it becomes simple and standardized.
Yeah, well, I think it's very much what Hanna said, is that in the end, it really is a point of view kind of thing, this AR stuff. So where you have these JPEGs, it's kind of just a static 2D thing, but this has been an experience. So it's really to that person. So even if you would record that experience and you could play it back on my eyes, then I would also need all that other sensory information that was happening at the same time, and not just the visual input. But it would be nice to think about how to, I don't know, get this to be as standardized as JPEGs and MP3s.
I mean, as I see it, like, mixed reality glasses are a thing, and in my university, in the laboratory, they're experimenting a lot with mixed reality, and basically, yeah, AR, but on glasses. And just the problem is that currently these glasses are almost as clunky as VR glasses, and that's a big kind of a wall to get over. But if that technology moves on and actually they're more like my glasses or any other nice glasses, I think it could be done. But then it's the question of what kind of content are we viewing and how do we control it, and lots of other questions. But I'm not as sure that it's going to get as standardized as JPEGs. Maybe, but the technology, like, currently it's a bit too expensive to kind of jump into the sphere, because JPEGs and PNGs, they virtually technically cost nothing in the space of your computer. And if you look at AR and VR content, it demands a lot of computational power. So yeah, I'm not as optimistic, let's say.
In the early days of VR, there was already attempts of doing this with markup languages like VRML and stuff like this, which is nowadays completely, I don't know, obsolete, and I don't think it works anymore. But at the moment, there's still like attempts of like pushing everything into the web, and in that regard, a web or the web is governed by organizations that are trying to put everything in standards, like the World Wide Web Consortium, World Wide Web Consortium. Yeah, really, exactly. So there is some attempts of describing scenes, and then if you basically describe the scene and then the material, and you find a lingua franca to describe interaction, which then would be JavaScript, then this would probably be the approach, because then the app is the browser, and the browser will be updated, and then the AR content is just a description of a scene. But at the moment, this is unfortunately not yet a very good experience, even though a lot of people are using the web AR. It is, there is some steps, and some are actually just by corporations that don't want to play along, that have to be taken to make a really good AR experience in a mobile browser, at least for me. But this is the way to go.
Yeah, the web, I agree. So the web could be one of the options, maybe. It's very specific. I just wanted to comment regarding the visual aesthetics, maybe, which are very much relying on technological possibilities. And I would say it reminds me a little bit of early net art, where actually today net artists who had their works made in 90s are claiming that they have to be shown in emulators, which emulate the operating system from that time, the screen resolution from that time, even the computational speed from that time. So because that becomes part of the work aesthetics in a way. So I would say that maybe even like if you are an artist, of course, you always want to kind of go further and develop further your work and have better visual and computational qualities to it. But also what has been made till now, I think it has this historical cultural value together. So as it is like with the content and with the visual aesthetics, as well as with the technology, which it has been made with. So I think that's one point which also should be considered when we kind of look from historical point of view to this. But yeah, very interesting question, very interesting discussion. So thank you all for participating. And I don't know if there are any other questions. We still have a couple minutes, like really literally a couple minutes. And otherwise, again, I can say thank you to all participants. Thank you to everybody who came. So there's something in the chat. Yeah, from Paula also, thank you. So it has been a good event. So, and thank you very much. So what is, maybe Maija can announce what is there something next on the program? Yeah.
Well, tomorrow we will finish our last workshop of the week. So that presentation should take place here in the Zoom events platform around 4. And tomorrow we are also having an exciting 2-hour masterclass on how to work in the VR industry. So from the perspective of not an artist perspective, but a person who actually works in the industry. So how to make money using VR. Because we as artists, we are kind of stuck in our own little world. We can use the 3D, we can use the Unity, we can develop the app. But this masterclass, I invited this person with the idea to allow students and participants to also hear the other side, how to work with a client, how to work with deadlines, how to kind of keep yourself updated in a sense, so you don't get outdated in your workplace, because it's a growing and always developing field. So that starts tomorrow at 6, same place, same time. So see you all tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.